Pow! Hi! It's Wednesday. And you know what that means? Yesterday was Tuesday. Hi. Okay, so today's page. I posted it up. It's a lot of fun to do. I drew it in ballpoint pen. I started during the stream. I sort of laid out where I was going to go with it. A little bit of enhancements in digitally, as in I put a lightning bolt in. And then the text. So it's a fun page to do. It's one of those things where, you got to be really specific with ink, right? Hey, Chris, welcome aboard. You got to be really specific with ink. You got to be, you can't erase it like pencil. Let's put it that way. So there's our page for today, and a lot of fun to do. Thank you, Linda Renz, for the suggestion. Linda the superstar. It was good to do. Linda had referred to if you invite Mariah, please let her be on a Friday. I can watch the show on a Friday. Oh yeah. That was the plan. Thursdays and Fridays is great days to have guests, and I'm waiting to confirm a guest for tomorrow. So, but definitely, I think would be whatever works for her schedule. But ideally, I think Fridays are good hangout days. Except for Friday, I generally start the page that's going to take the weekend, like a pencil crayon page. But we'll figure it out. I'm getting ready to go to school now. Nice, excellent. Well, I hope that your students are all behaving themselves today. Okay, the business. So we got today's page. I got that finished. Hi, Linda. I just thank you for your suggestion. Here's your page. Linda revealed a tale about how somebody had been rude to her son, and then on the Sunday when I went to hang out with my brother-in-law in Paris, a lady went to just go storming through the door, despite clearly being able to see, John going through the door, and her partner said, "Hey, give him a minute," and I'm like, "You're cool stuff, man, lady. Lucky to have that guy." Look at that situation again. Anyways, so this is the one page that I did, and the other page I finished today was, it's a horse-drawn Ford F-150 run. This is just silly, and sometimes it's fun to just have some silly. And you want to try something different. You want to try a different palette, or you want to try a different approach to something. Do it. If it's successful or not, it doesn't matter. At least you gave it a try. Right? Silver Gnome and Silver Granny and her Grumpy Gnome. One of the greatest names I've discovered online here. Welcome aboard. So this is the extra page that was finished today. I just wanted to just play for a few minutes. I mean, I could do a lot more with the coloring of it. And it was a different choice for it not to be black line art, but to be transposed into red line art. And then, of course, today's regular page that I drew in ballpoint pen yesterday. So it's been a busy week of all kinds of different stuff. I tend to let people have, I've been, of late, I've been letting people pick what medium I'm working in each day. But before we get too far into that, let's get the overhead camera on. So here's the original art from from today's page. All right, and that's the ballpoint pen imagery that I was drawing yesterday. Okay, so if you're interested in seeing that process, that's the one. Silver Granny says, "Have fun teaching today." Oh, I never said I was teaching. I just said it's a great day for teaching. Whatever. I'm just ridiculous. Anyways, so that's the page. Let's put it in the pile over there. And I'm gonna have to figure out. We're gonna be doing something with all this art that's piling up. This original pages that are piling up because I have a shelf of them now, and it's when I started getting almost to the top of the shelf that you sort of have to reevaluate and go, okay, all right, like I've shown the portfolios here on the stream that has a lot of the original pages on it, and I can do that again, maybe Friday. But you know, at a certain point in time, I'm going to have to make some decisions here. So, okay, here's our paper for today. It's a blue cardstock, but more like a construction paper, you know. And so I thought this could be fun to work on. And, you know, I've got some different tools that have been piling up, but I can put all kinds of things in. Thank you for making the page. Hey, thank you for the suggestion. It was a lot of fun to do. Chris, it sounded like it's your channel to my youngest son, whose art interests run along the same lines as yours. Cool. That's great. Super fun. Yeah, let him know and tell him to check out some of the streams that we've done. If I went through earlier today, I went through this week's pages, and so we've done. I've done. Hold on a second, and I'll open them. These are the pages so far for this week. That'll be popping up in just a second, and so this page we painted. This page we did in pencil crayon. Well, that's a page that I doodle during church. I draw the sermons. This page is just a brush, a beautiful brush pen that I got this week. And its name is, I can't read that. But, and then, of course, Ford F-150 and Struck Blind. So, you know, I try a little bit of different whatever every day. So, you know, we'll have some fun with it. That's what happened with the needle felting figures. The shelf is getting full. Right now I'm making a panda. Oh, nice. The dragon, yes. Awesome. I'm glad you liked the dragon one. That was a fun one. That was that came out pretty good. That's acrylic paint on cardstock. So, and of course all the text. Okay. And then I beefed up the colors on the P&M page, and I had a spelling correction that I had to do. Whoops, I knocked the camera off again. That's the P&M page after I did the color corrections on it and beefed up all the colors, so it's much more easy to see. That's up on the Patreon like that. And then there's the dragon piece as well. Well, that's ham. Space, right? This page is just dumb. But it's fun. Okay, let's get to it. So I've got Super Granny says, I love the dragon, Chris. I'm partially drawn to fantasy creatures. Would love to see a gargoyle and a griffin. Okay, well, I'll write that down on a suggestion. A gargoyle and a griffin. A gargoyle or a griffin walk into a bar. I'm going to do that in something that's legible. Come on, Uli. There's my Uli pen. And that's from Silver Granny. So I'll throw that in the suggestion book. We'll get a page going on the gargoyle and the griffin. I have the Book of Tricks, and the Book of Tricks has all kinds of suggestions in it that people give me. So people that's hi Beth, welcome aboard. So people suggest one-page story ideas, and all of the stuff that I just showed a few seconds ago, of all the pages that we've done this week, come from suggestions from people. Linda's suggestion yesterday for the page that I posted, where is it? There it is a person who makes fun of, where is it? A person who makes fun of someone's challenges wakes up with the same situation. So why not hit somebody with lightning? A little bit of revenge for us, Linda. A little passive-aggressive revenge there. Did I miss Raul here? Did I miss Raul? No? Okay, well, all right. So let's get down to today's page, and we'll get me off the screen. Nobody needs to see this old goofball. All right. So I got a big piece of blue paper. It's the same size as the other sheets that I've been using. right? It's the same size as yesterday's page, and but what we can do with this is that we can do some. We can work in reverse. We can have just as much fun with white lines on a blue surface. Now I'm going to close up. Oh, that's okay, Beth. Hi, Beth. Whoops. Well, why not? There's the logo. Yeah. All right. So here's our zoom in, and I'll just move the paper over just a little bit so it's nicely centered. There you go. All right. So today's page, the suggestion for today's page was a gathering angry mob, and okay. It's really wide open. It's really wide open to get a suggestion like that, because it doesn't say anything about what the mob is gathering for or why. And so thank you, Tyler, for that suggestion. I appreciate it. That's what we're going with yesterday. This is what I'm talking about when I say, and so I wrote it down for everybody. There you go. But this is what I'm talking about when the suggestions come in all different shapes and forms. And so it allows us creatively to be able to explore our own imagination by saying, well, if it's just an angry gathering mob, what am I going to do with that? And so you start thinking about your first angry mob, and that would be, I don't know, either horrible things that are going on in the news, or maybe the Frankenstein story where the angry mob gathers with the pitchforks and all that business. Now, for me, that means fun. And what I mean by that is, why not have the angry mob coalescing and saying, Bob, did you bring all the pitchforks? All the pitchforks? I brought my pitchfork. Why do I got to bring everybody else's pitchfork? Stuff like that is fun, right? And we can explore story directions like that. So I'll move that out of the way. Okay, so we've got our paper set up. We got a big old ruler, and so I've got a white pencil here, and this is a Goldfaber Faber-Castell pencil, and which I think, strange as it might sound, is the prettiest pencil. It just is, and it's a really good pencil, works really well, but I think it's really elegant looking. So I went and bought some more Faber-Castell pencils, but I'm not displeased by any of them. Okay, so we got our setup here. Now I can do a couple things. If people are interested, I can modify the surface a little bit, and this is my whole. I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm sorry for that, Kane. This is hi, Chris. Hi. This is fine. Creative. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Those are good pencils. I'd like to get a set. I got a set. Want to see? Here's my set. There you go. Blue, yellow, red, black, white. Let's go. And blue, yellow, red, black, white. Don't allow yourself to think that you can't do things with those, because while we were going up to Paris I live in London, Ontario. Paris, Ontario is about an hour away. And so while Lori was doing the driving, I was doodling and with my 4 little pencils, or my 5 pencils. And so you can get all kinds of values and stuff in here. You can get all kinds of different tones. It's really just a case of just going for it. Give it a little bit of a, blending and soften. There's a better set of the colors. Just allowing yourself to blend those values together, and you can get all kinds of stuff out of that. So there's a factory outlet in the city where I am, Faber-Castell. They have incredible prices. Well, in that case, get 60 colors. Okay. All right, we're going to start with simple old white. I like drawing in white a lot. This is just a random scribble that I did using a white pencil on a black piece of cardstock that I'm not sure if this will pick up the thread. but I sew paper together sometimes because I like the stitches in the surface there. And so this is using white on black. And so we're going to go for a similar kind of energy like that here, because we can, right? You can blend and make green, orange, purple, shades. Oh, yeah. Mixing colors and knowing the basics of color theory, you don't need more than 12 colors. There you are. I love blending. Thumbs up, please. Oh, that's very nice, you bet. Okay, so our objective today is a gathering angry mob. That's what we're pursuing for our drawing today, and we're going to see where this can take us, what it can give us, and then that way, it's the kind of thing that there's all kinds of story that we can explore, but sometimes it's just about gathering the image together. So I thought one of the ways that I could do that is to open a scene, and I got my big old ruler here. So I'll just put a line across the top, and so I thought I would start with a shot, big open panel shot of the first person standing there, waiting for everybody else to gather, and that's a fun starting place, right? Because there's always an eager beaver in every angry mob. So I'm going to put a line across the bottom. That's an absolutely terrible. I don't think this paper is square at all. No, my first line was just so bad. Okay. Well, we're getting there. Anyhow, so in our first image, we're going to put somebody that's there at the start of the whole thing. Chris, I was watching the PM one-page extravaganza this morning. I had to Google if there was a difference between pencil crayons and colored pencil. I found out that it's a linguistic thing. I'm Canadian, and so we use a lot of expressions that are sourced in the King's English and British. And so we spell color O-U-R, and we say pencil crayons. And I know that in the United States, you say colored C-O-L-O-R pencil. So, it's just a difference. It's just some differences, right? All right, let's move this down into the shot. So we've got a good image of our camera here. I'm going to tilt this crazy kid around a little bit. There we go. Oops. Oopsie daisy. All right, so we're going to have a mob gather up. And so first thing I'm going to do is draw our first guy. But I want to try something different today. And bear with me on this. If I space it correctly, what I want to do is that I want to pull your eye down to the next panel by something that starts in this panel. And so I want to cut this second image into the first one. And then we'll lead down to the next image that'll be over here and underneath. And so if we want to have some interesting shapes to our page, rather than, yesterday I did a 9-panel format, which is like a standard. Today is it's a portrait-sized page. It's an upright page, but I'm foregoing the 9 panels, 3 lines, 3 panels. I'm foregoing that, and we're going to have a little bit of complex fun with our page. So first off, we're going to draw our guy, and I want to draw a scene, and a fun way we can do this scene and to add direction to our page is by putting this panel and the image that's inside of it at an angle. And so what that will give us is a little bit of visual interest to actually direct the eye in the direction that we want it directed in, which is this way, right? Because we want the eye to follow through here into this, and then I need to do something in this that directs you back down to here and keeps you moving through the page. All right. The whole point of drawing, and I've said this before. Whoops, sorry. I clicked the button there and I didn't mean to. I apologize. The whole point of doing a page like this is to move the viewer's eye from the top left to the bottom right, because we're doing it in this format. Now, if we turn that format on its side, like many of the pages, as you'll see, I've posted in the last year. Last year I did 358 pages in the landscape format. And I think I did like 20 at the start of the year too. But right now we've moved back into the portrait type format, which is the traditional one that a lot of sequential stories are done in, in comic books and graphic novels and the like. So that's what we're back to right now. So if that makes sense for people, I hope that helps. Okay, let's get rid of me again. Now, I've got a window, ostensibly is what my plan is here, is to have somebody peering through a window. Now, it seems a little bit kooky kabuki, the way that I'm drawing this window frame in, but bear with me a second, I'll tell you why. So, if I draw it in this way, what it actually is giving me is, what I've just done for myself is that's the shadow that's in the window pane. So if I'm drawing in the frame of the window like so, then I've already left a space. And so sometimes, like I said yesterday with the ballpoint pen drawing, sometimes it's about not drawing. Sometimes it's about the marks you don't make, the shapes that you leave in your compositions that have nothing in those, the negative space. Because the negative space in any image that we create speaks just as loudly as the positive space. Yes? That's right, Chris. All right. Okay, so this section I've already created for myself for the window pane. Now let's just put the cap on this panel, and I'm going to move it below this line here. I'm going to move it down below, and the reason for that is that if this corner touched this corner of this box touched this line here, it becomes what's called a tangent, and it immediately detracts your eye to focus specifically right there. And no matter what we're about to draw here, your eye is drawn there. I want to look at that beautiful pointed space and time. I want to not even pay attention to the rest of this jazz. Okay, so in this image, we'll have our first guy gathered. We'll just do a really simplistic drawing of a guy, and we'll put his hands in pockets. I'll be back to check the chat in just a second. And what I'm considering is high contrast light here, so that, our white is going to be on the back side of him as the sun is right overhead. And then it just sort of mutes down in the front part of his body. Sorry, the fore part of his body. We're having a day. So any of our light areas are coming from over here, which is why we got this shadow. Okay? Okay, Chris, that sounds great. Let's give him his ear. And then we'll start to put in some of his face. But again, we don't have to draw his whole face. Okay, so it's pretty small. And I'll hold it up. It was small for me to draw. I realize how small it is for you to see. Okay, but we're going to beef them up a little bit. And put some big light hits that pull them out there. And again, I'll get a little more clear in just a second. I'm just starting with the person. But now you can see the higher contrast, right? Right. Okay. So there we are with our start. Now, if I want to be interesting, and sometimes I do, we can put some bars on this window because these things happen. All right, so I'm just going to put a line here and a line here. Now I got my good old buddy Druid. Hey, Dom. And we'll just knock out our guideline there. And then, as I say with all things, everything that we're drawing is three shapes: triangles, squares, and circles. And it's just sort of finding those three shapes and all of the different things that we're drawing. There should be nothing to hold you back from drawing all the things you've ever wanted to do. So the reason I got that little white line on the back of the bar is because that's how light works. It reflects and refracts. So we got a couple of bars on our window here. Put that down there. And we'll do the same thing as we do over here. So now we've got a framing device that works on the rule of thirds. And for those that don't know what the rule of thirds is, a lot of successful compositions that you'll find, looks like the guy's wearing a lab coat. Is he a scientist, a doctor? Well, it's kind of like a trench coat. But yeah, it's he's going to be a problem. Rule of thirds means an image divides up in three ways. So we're framing this guy in the center, this image to the side, and this image to the side. And if you measure them, they're probably relatively the same. So that's what we've got sneakily in place here. And now I'm going to push it a little bit farther and do the same thing in behind him. And so bear with me for a moment. We're going to have we're going to make a mess. We're going to make a big old mess. Put a lot of broken bits of building here behind him. Now, if for interest's sake, I can start adding in some black highlights into the composition to really push some shadow along. But right now, we're just going to stick to the blue and white and get the whole thing down and get moving. Am I missing stuff? Looks like, oh no, I'm caught up. Am I using a gel pen? Yeah, the white that I used was a Jelly Roll pen, number 10. That's there it is, right there. Jelly Roll number 10. Okay. So I'm just putting in a bunch of geometric forms to suggest bricks and pieces of broken building. And just some interesting shapes and some shadows here. Oh, I forgot to tell people, today's musical selection that I have playing in my ear is Blondie. I like to tell people what I'm listening to each day. Because for me, it helps to keep me motivated and moving forward. So, the pen that I used for yesterday's ballpoint page that I drew is a Papermate 1.0. Cheapy pen. Okay, so we got lots of rubble around him now. And let's give him another side of his jacket. And continue some of that information around him. Here's so he's at a rebel site, so something's happened. That's the idea I'm trying to suggest, is that This is our first guy. So with this panel, I get this affordance of space around what we want the viewer to be drawn to, and that is this guy. But because we're having this affordance of space, I have lots of ample space to put the dialogue balloons in that don't necessarily interfere with the visuals. But I say this again, every time, draw the whole image and then put the text over top. So that way you can decide to change where the placement of your word balloons are, or how big they are. Missing stuff, am I? Oh, Chris says, do you have a physical music library? I keep all of my CDs and DVD collections. Oh yeah. Oh, you betcha. Yeah, it's an age thing. I think that those of us that are a certain age and older, we hold on to those. There's a sort of preciousness to that and a trust in that. I'm an Xer, and these Gen Xers, we don't necessarily trust the modern technologies. Besides, a lot of that's a ripoff, where you're gonna go on streaming services and try to find the music that you enjoy. And if you listen to weird music like this guy, then sometimes that's not as easy. And then they charge you, and you gotta be dealing with their commercials or whatever, or their junk, or it's there's a temporaneousness in the way that a lot of things are going right now. Okay, there's a small area I'm leaving, a small little area that I'm leaving around our guy, where the colors and the shapes don't touch him. Distinctly do not go right up to the surface of his coat or anything like that. And the reason that I do that is it's a little subversive little thing that makes him pop out a little more. Chris has got to go. See you around on Friday. Take care, Chris. Have a great class. Grumpy Style has a collection of favorite vinyl albums running the gamut from Santana to Jethro Tull. Excellent. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because, I mean, if you don't, then what? If you can't afford these services, or if you can't play their constant games about, if you want to download stuff from them, you got to re-download it every arbitrary now and then, because they've decided that they need to draw your attention for 30 seconds again so they can hit you with ads. Just stupid. Now, given I've got about 300 albums in Spotify, and but a lot of them are stuff that I already have on CD, just so that the convenience. Because they don't have a portable CD player with headphones anymore. So what I'm doing with the jelly pen is that I put the mark down and then I drag it with my finger, just to soften that blend. Leaves you with a dirty finger, but that's good. If especially you're talking to somebody and going, no, 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 and they'll be like, why is the tip of your finger white? So we're going to say bye to Chris. Chris got a crazy teaching schedule this term. So I'm putting in some of these light points on the objects that are in the composition around our principal guy, just to add a little more interesting sophistication. It's a really small panel. I'll give you that I put in here, and that'll be all right. We'll move along pretty quickly. I thought that maybe it's easier than watching, I guess, finish a complete panel or something. Maybe it's easier for people if I just keep moving forward, and I'll draw the next panel, and I'll draw, so on and so forth. I don't know. It's up to folks. Let me know what you think on that front, and we'll do our best. But let's get this information in up to the window. And that way people have a clear understanding of where the outside is from the inside. I'll at least get the center window done, right? So this is another piece of wall. For those that find a real complexity in drawing bricks, it's just an off-center separation from one layer of bricks to the next. That's all it is. So just like, look, if you've got these two bricks here, then the brick above centers on them like so. That's how it works. Okay. And again, lots more little bits of business all around. Okay. Just some more pieces of information, and then I'm going to cut out part of it as, instead of putting all this information in here in white, this is what I'll come back in and fill in with the black. And I'll have another piece of stick holding up another piece of wall. Again, not touching our character with the lines. But what we can do is more readily define the shape of his head by drawing the environment around it. Okay, where are we at? Oh, no, I'm still keeping up. Okay, so there's the start of this composition of our character standing in front of a broken environment of ruined buildings and behind him. And I'm just going to come in and pull the midground up a little bit and put some solid shape around the windows. And then we are cooking with the gasoline, folks. I might have to get the a postcode. I'd be fussy here, pen. Okay, so I'll give that a second to dry, or I'm going to smudge it. But let's put in a couple more of these details, raise up this surface a little bit. Now, another thing I would do is put a little bit of friscolation in here where I would take white ink on a toothbrush and I would cover him up and the frame here and spatter into that space just to put a little granulation in there, just to give it something, make it a little more interesting. So there we go. We're pulling that doorway that goes nowhere be a little more prominent. It's the picking and choosing of accent lines when we put them in a composition like this. You need to keep in mind the surface of the objects you're drawing and think about them not as lines on paper, not as the drawing itself, but the actual object. Where would be the raised part of it and where would be the farthest away from you part of it. Okay, so we're getting a lot done on our pretty small first panel. Okay, now just put a little bit more in, but before that, let's do this. So I'm not doing a solid line across here. It's a rather broken line, and the reason for that is that I don't want a really distinct outline. I want to define the shape. But that's not quite how our eye works. Okay. I'm sorry, I moved out of frame. There you go. So now we can see the window frame popping in a little bit more. Okay, so I've got a choice. I can go with a dark blue or a black, and I think that I'm going to go with a dark blue instead because I can get some intermediate values between there that are going to be a little more interesting. But I'm going to come in with him, and we're going to start to define this shape a little bit more of some of the objects that are in our composition. Thank you, everybody that's joined us today, for your patience. Anyone has any questions, you're always welcome to ask me. And I'm trying to work on a whole bunch of things right now and get this new book out. It collects pages there, and moving forward after last year, we had a few setbacks. I'm setting up a new website. Okay, so now hopefully that's giving far more dimension to our composition. I'll hold it up in just a sec. So hopefully, by putting some of these darker lines in now, see, as I'm drawing in the negative, I'm thinking about the positive. I'm thinking about both parts of the composition. I'm thinking about where, when you're drawing with black line art, optimally, you are thinking of the shadows and where those would go in your illustration. Well, this is no different. Drawing in white, you're still thinking of the shadows. I'm sorry, when you're drawing in black line art,
you're thinking of the light surfaces, the raised surfaces, not just your shadows. But when I'm drawing in this way, I'm drawing in light and thinking about primarily the shadows. I'm so sorry, I got the way I said that there. Regularly, we draw the objects as though we see them illuminated. And when you're drawing in white, you draw the objects in illumination, and then you bring up the shadows. So there we go. As I'm pulling in, you can see here's our guy standing amongst the rubble of a building. And we've just made a more interesting scene by putting it through a window. A barred window, no less. What is a barred window all about? Dun, dun, dun. Now, of course, I'm going to draw the rest of this on the opposite sides of the window, but I don't want you to wait while I'm drawing panel by panel because, well, where's this going? Well, why don't we just, sorry about that. Why don't we just get down? I'm going to take the logo off. It's in the road. Why don't we just get down to moving through the composition and putting down different panels and building up little parts of them, but not overly focusing on completing them. So here is the little bit of shadow that's on the inside of the window. So from the point that we're looking out, this there's a reason to why I'm doing this. I tend to like to introduce protagonist or the principal character in a narrative in that first illustration. Yesterday, when I drew this page, right off the hop, I've put this snotty guy who's laughing at these two guys whose arms are linked together because one person is vision impaired and the other person's helping him down from the curb. But this jerk's like, look at these two bozos. Ha ha ha. I'd never be seen holding another guy's hand like that or touching him in another guy's arm like that. And this dude says, it's not cool. One guy's helping the other one out because he's vision impaired, right? But what I'm introducing in this first panel is the conflict. Here's Bozo deriding these two people, and it's the only time I show you the two characters that are the point of contention in the story. Because the true point of contention is him. But he's making an issue of these two fellas, and one of which is blind. So I want to establish all of that right at the onset. He's on a regular city street, looking at two guys, making a judgment and being inappropriate, and then he says something dumb that catches him in the butt. So, well, he says another something dumb that catches him in the butt. So that's, in the developing of the story, I want to, right off the hop, get a sense of the environment. I want to get a sense of the characters that we're really going to be focusing on here. So in this one, I've got the person who's organizing the angry mob, and I want to introduce, and this, I'm kind of being subversive about it, but I want to introduce the quarry. I want to introduce the person that the angry mob is gathering for. And so that is, it's us, basically. We are in the position that the potential victim of this gathering mob is going to watch them gather from. He's in this cell or in this barred room, and here are these people that are going to gather from outside and around him. Now, I can draw a second character walking up to the first in this panel and have him say, are we the first ones here? He says, yeah, everyone else is taking a sweet time and he's in there, So we've already started to develop a structural narrative, but we've already established that these guys are gathering together to deal with whoever's inside this room. If that makes any sense to folks. I hope it does. Wow, it's becoming dimensional. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, so we just got to consider where our shadows are going to be when we're drawing in the light. So we're getting a little more form. But this space, this room, just going to do a little more developing of it. Now I'll be drawing a slight light white line on the inside of the lip of this window. And because that's how light works. It's not just solid white, solid black. It doesn't work like that. And that's how we developed the dimension. That's how we develop, this light here is a reflection off of the part that the light's actually hitting. The light is coming from this point up here, so this is why we're seeing light here. This light, when I go over it again, is going to be much brighter than over here, because this is going to be more directly affected by where the sunlight's coming from, and then the light is going to actually move over this shadowed part too. We're in hiding from the impending doom of a confrontation with this gathering mob. That is exactly it. So we are coming at this from the perspective of the person that the mob is gathering for. It's a gathering angry mob is the focus of the story, not who they're gathering for or why, or, we just know that they're getting together, right? That's what we want to work from. That's what we want to develop a little bit farther as we go along. So let's we'll tighten in this panel so that we can get the perspective of our guy, our protagonist, I guess. Well, he's more of an antagonist, but our principal guy. Let's do a zoom in on his face. And then doing a zoom in on his face lets us, more clearly get some emotional. Yeah, this paper's not even. It gives a little bit more emotional impact on this character's thoughts for the audience. It gives a little more of an insight into their mood, into their emotion, right? So if we tighten in, now we want the face to be the same way. Okay, so he has to be on the same angle as he is up here. All right? So when we're drawing him in, we got to make sure of that for ourselves. So again, like I said before, sometimes it's where you don't put lines than where you do put lines. Okay, so, and the stabilizing fact of the first panel being on a weird angle just gives a little energy to, ideally, it gives a little bit of energy to the scene by just starting things off on an awkward footing. Not just the fact that, here's all this destroyed environment around them, but here's this angle that we're looking at things from. So now I'm just going to draw a tighter shot of our guy over here. And I've got to consider the space around him as well, right? The same as when drawing the hair pieces, like the hair on this guy here. Well, this is all lit up. So this is any of these marks are abstract in the first place. But by not drawing the top of the head and this outline shape of the head gives a little more sense of realism, I hope, to the character. But there's that line, these lines don't actually touch. This line barely does. There's a break in between here, just because light is far more interesting than just solid block lining everything, right? So I'm starting light, okay? I'm coming into drawing the features of our guy from an initial light application. I'm sure it doesn't look like this makes any sense for a moment, but bear with me. I get a furrow brow in here for him. And then we're going to, this will make sense to you now. Well, now that you can tell that, oh, there's the nose, there's the eyes. But we got to think about where the light is hitting the face. And now we can start putting in a little pressure on the pencil just for those lighter areas, the raised areas that are catching more direct sunlight. Remembering as well where the shadows are and where the deeper shadows are. So it's not just that I didn't fill in all of the blue areas. I'm picking and choosing them out of here, right? So the light blue still works for us as the base color of the composition, but then the dark blue pushes it even further back. So now we've got 3 values, really 4, right? Dark blue, middle blue, light white, bright white, right? I'm just using 2 colors on a blue piece of paper. I chose the blue instead of the black because it's more interesting. If it's black, it's just this, clear contrast thing. If it's blue, there's an emotional part to it. Okay, here's our guy coming in. A little highlight on the jowls of his cheeks there. So here's our close-up shot on this guy. And the reason that I'm doing this is it allows me to extend 2 things, emotional intensity and dialogue. So here's the people gathering out there. I'll draw another person walking towards him saying, we're the first ones, blah, blah, blah. We can even draw 2 people stepping over the rubble from this direction so that we have a sense that they're all gathering together. But then we focus in on our principal character. And so because we have this extra space around here, we can give him more dialogue to talk about what the issue at hand is. That guy in there knows what he did. We're gonna get him. He stole the cookies from the cookie jar. Who put chocolate in my peanut butter? How many rolls does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll? Whatever the question is, they want to get him for. So we got the same angle. We've got this shoulder, right shoulder here. But we can put a tiny little bit more detail, little folds here and there that we couldn't see from the farther shot. Because the human eye doesn't come with a zoom lens, folks. So as we zoom in with our camera, we can fill in more interesting lines in order to make our eye happy. Happy, happy, happy. But we've got our guy in here, and we're going to come in a second and push the lights, and then we're going to hit it with the jelly roll pen and really make them pop, right? I hope that makes sense to folks. We can more clearly define his outfit here, following the shapes as set up in that first image of him. There we go. Oh. Okay. So now we're putting in the second collar. we're getting his close-up perspective, right? So we can go back in, look at our existing composition from that first panel, and start to, again, use the light to frame our guy and to leave out these spaces where we know his hair is. So rather than right now drawing in the hair, we're drawing in the space and the details around it. I don't know how exciting that is for folks, but there we go. If anybody has any ideas that they come up with for suggestions, you know, you're more than welcome to put them in the chat or to put them in the comments here in the video, especially if you're watching the video after the chat's over. As well as you're welcome to put them on any of the posts that I do on social media, on Instagram or Facebook. Go ahead and feel free to put your suggestions there. I got a number of people that do. And we'll get at it. We'll put it in the book of tricks. And, well, it's a book of suggestions. And then we'll get to it. So I'm emulating that shape here. And then I've got the secondary shape that's in there as well. And again, I'm drawing everything in this sort of flat value right now, rather than all the buildup of light. So, Silver Granny says, we recognize who that person is and we are shocked. Excellent. See, that's an excellent way to dive into the persona of the character that we're creating here. Fantastic, Silver Granny. Welcome aboard, Renee. Renee says, really cool. Yeah, because if we zoom in on his face and he's looking over at us and saying something snide and rude to the other guys, we're going to get that guy. It gives us a sense of dread now, because Mr. Serious Business out there has given us the old stink eye. And we're stuck in here. We're trapped. So what's next, right? So again, I'm just putting in some of these elements. Well, I think I can bring this pillar all the way around to the other side. So we really haven't changed the angle. So here we go. We'll start these organic shapes. It's almost like a key shape we got up here. And here's this bright white of this board that's leaning up against this wall. And we can define it a little more clearly. Give it a little bit of grain to it now. But again, we don't want to touch the character here. I really like the perspective you have on the thoughts of what's going on for. We're in this room looking at this mob gathering in front of us from the suggestion, gathering angry mob. And so the second character, really, there's the primary character and his mobsters. And then there's us inside this room looking out. And now there's the us inside this room that's getting a closer look at the bully and his gang. We appreciate Granny that you like that. You can see, feel some insight into that. That's great. That's good story reading. It's character. David Mamet, the playwright and film author, or was a screenplay, script writer, whatever you call him. Anyhow, David Mamet's a genius. And he talks about you don't define the character by breaking them down and come up with their life story and all of that jazz. You define a character through their dialogue. And when we're illustrating, it's not just, and we're doing a comic story, it's not just the textual dialogue that we're referring to. Because of the way that this process works, it's a fusion of visual and textual elements, so that half of that dialogue is the visual keynotes, right? So we're putting a visual keynote on this Crazy Kid by, see what I did there? We're putting a little visual keynote on our guy here with this zoom shot. Just focusing in on him. I think right now he looks a little bit like Bruce Willis. I'm a Bruce Willis fan. Okay, so we're going to get, and this is the really raised up white area that we see up here that we are now drawing in behind them. So this is reverse. We're drawing basically in reverse of how we drew and drawing the ballpoint page. We're putting black lines down in order to define, the illustrations. And in this case, we're drawing the shadows, and we're drawing the contour lines and stuff like that. Whereas in this case, we're drawing the planes and leaving out the contour lines and the shadows to be filled in secondarily. So it's the same thing, just looking at it the opposite way. We got this. We got this, gang. You guys are all on top of this. So I'm just going to get a little bit more of what we got going on here, and then I'll put some of those highlights just to punch that up, right? And then we'll get moving along in our composition, and I'll get in, at the very least, into this third panel and figure out where we're going with our story. But the idea in my mind is we're interpreting the gathering of this gang, as it says, a gathering of an angry mob. I keep calling them a gang. The gathering of this angry mob. And that's all right. That's all right. That gives us opportunity to tell all kinds of story. Often you'll see in films and the like that, well, suddenly there's just a shouting mob, pitchforks, flaming torches, etc. They're all just, they're there. A lot of films don't really introduce the gathering of these people or what leads to that. I'm not saying all of them don't. I'm saying many of them don't. And to me, that's kind of more interesting. It's the same as when people get together and make the decision to do a union strike or something like that. It's like, oh, you got the barrels for us to burn and keep ourselves warm out in the cold. It wasn't until I had met somebody who was a union organizer, and in the back of his driveway, he had a whole bunch of empty barrels. I'm like, what in the world's all this for? That's what we got to go on strike. I'm like, so that's how that works. I've always wondered where the angry mob came from. Not to say that these unionists are an angry mob, but you know what I mean. Okay, so we got our guy here. Let's put our raised lights on. Granny's throwing some ideas. Why has this person betrayed us when we trusted him with all of our secrets? Oh, that's great. That's good fun. I like that. So these are the kind of things, the stuff that you're saying right now, Granny, these are the kind of things that alone in and of itself, why has this person betrayed us when we trusted him with all of our secrets is a suggestion for a whole page, right? Like that's the kind of thing that you can say that as a statement and go make a story out of that. Dance, monkey. I will dance. We're on page 40 some odd for this year already. I think this is page 43. And, random ideas. And away we go. So I'm finding shapes in the face, the raised areas. The nose is clearly right up there in the light, right? Diffusing it a little bit with the tip of my finger. Okay, and then at the top of the ear, raised part of the ear over here. cheek. Get into that plane on that cheek. And in a moment, I'm going to come in with that blue pencil. Hopefully, you're able to start seeing the face here now. It's a rough and tumble character. One of my favorite story types is the modern Prometheus or the Frankenstein story. You know, just from the vantage of the monster, you know. He didn't ask for all this. He doesn't understand, right? So looking at our shape up there, and then we know we've got a little bit of his shirt peeking through here too. Give a little bit more shape to the jacket he's wearing. A couple little spots and things like that. So I'll hold that up, and then we'll. Oops, I'm so sorry. There we go. So you can see the shot back there of him, and now we're zooming in on his Mr. Grumpy face. So I'll pull up some more of those details in his face. So we want to give him a smudge here. So we're not making solid lines. We're not doing solid contour lines. We're just refining those spots. Pushing those areas back and making them a little more ominous. There's so many things that can lead the viewer's mind to suggest who this might be. What if it's just death? What if this guy's death? You know, sounds morbid, I realize, but what if he's gathering all these people to get together to draw this guy out who doesn't want to go? So we're starting to get a face now. Hold them up just a sec. There's our guy. Okay, we'll hold it up. So here's our, trying to get the right angle here, folks. Here's our rabble rouser, our organizer. And if you knit it in nice and close, There's little white dots for his eyes because he's creepy. This is our bringer of misfortune to the person that's inside the window that we're looking at our story from. So now, this is all going to be the same as it is up here, with this push shadow. The shapes in the business and behind really doesn't matter. I mean, the first panel we're sort of showing this broken environment that the story's taking place in. But that second panel, just a reiteration of it. So we can still use these abstract shapes and they still tell our story. So we've now got this first defined panel. Okay. And like so, up at the top. And in addition to that, we've got our second panel, which brings us closer in on the emotional state of our main guy. So this third panel, I've put a line here, just a raised up, okay, a ½ inch above the bottom of this panel. So what tells us is that this sits on top of that, right? And the third panel's at the bottom of the three. But because of the placement of the panels, we start here on the left side. Oh, we move to this instead of moving down because this is imposing inside this image. It's sitting on top. So we automatically go to the imposing image and then we go down below. So what we also need to think about is the circuit of the eye, right? So right now our lines, this line is actually more of a box shape moving us this way, okay? So it's not just working against us, it's moving, it's like a box pulling down into this box. And then in this box, as we have a diagonal here, the diagonal as it appears in this panel moves us right down to here. So in our next panel, we have the opportunity to tell a much larger image. Just a setting on the size of it. So now we have this image moving all the way across the page, whereas we have a border on this one. Now, what I would arguably encourage, maybe for interest's sake in this process, is that this next panel down below, or this next series of panels, or whatever we put down here, has this outside edge in order to match the border that is presented up above, and the same on the opposite side. Because although it's not all uniformly sized panels, there is a governing structure to the whole of the page. So this space here is equal in width to that space there, and the same on the opposite side. Whereas this crosses the span, so now our eye is moved here. That's our point of interest in this composition. Right here, our eye has gone bing, bong, bing. So that's where the key thing we're looking at is, hiya Riri, welcome aboard. We're just getting our page laid out for today. And we're drawing white on a blue piece of construction cardstock. And we've got 3 tools right there. That's what we're using so far. Okay, so we've got this set up as it is, right? We've got our guy. We've got him looking into us, basically. Your use of perspective is always impressive, Christopher. Oh, well, that's very nice of you, Riri. Thank you very much. Okay, so, well, we need to build these things up a little more. We need to work up a more interesting and sophisticated way of defining our panels, just to keep the eye moving around, right? All right, well, let's keep going here. I'm just monkeying around. Okay, so let's try this. All right, we can draw. As we have more people gathering here, we'll have dialogue from the people saying, "Oh, well, so what brings you over here? Hey, good to see you, Bob." And we can have them conversing with one another. But I think I want to just explore the layout of the page together. Okay, so we've got our first two panels. We've got this broad panel, and I'll make a note on a post-it and stick it down. How's that? So this is where I'll use my fancy Japanese brush pen. So that's where our crowd gathers, is in this panel that moves across the page, right? Okay, and they all gather, and this is their center point of gathering. We've brought the eye back to here, dun, 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 right? And then down below, what I thought I would do is some more horizontal panels, or I'm sorry, some more vertical panels. Your use, I'm sorry, I hope I read that right. Your use of perspective is always impressive, Christopher. Thank you very much, Riri. I appreciate that. Okay, so now I'm going to switch cameras out so we can see the larger page, okay? And okay, so here we go. We've got our top 2, 3, 4, 5th, our top 5th of the page, right? And then overlaid on that is this panel. Then it moves down to this panel that moves straight across and sits underneath this panel. That's what the little raised line is up here, right? And so that the image will feed under this one and feed under this side and then feed in behind. So this sits like we've drawn it on a post-it and stuck it over top, right? Thank you, Chris. I'll have to catch the rest of the stream on replay. I gotta go now. Thanks for hanging out there, so Granny, I appreciate it. Okay, so next thing I want to do is move down to this broad vertical panel. Now I did vertical panels this week when I did the dragon story, the In That Season story, which I showed earlier. I'll put it up now. So in the dragon story, these are vertical panels. This is what I'm referring to, okay? As opposed to today's page, which was based on a flat 9-panel grid, 1, 2, 3 across the top, 1, 2, 3 across the center, 1, 2, 3 across the bottom, even though the panel at the top is too wide and the panel at the bottom is too wide. It's still a 9-panel format, right? Whereas this is just basically 3 panels. One panel is open-ended because the vegetables are just splaying out across the center, right? But in this, it's straight on. So this is largely horizontal. This image is largely vertical. And so what we're doing here is a fusion of the two. So horizontal, box, horizontal. Now I'm going to do some vertical panels across here. And then down at the bottom, in the bottom 5th of the page, right here where the ruler is now, will be one more horizontal. And it works to symmetrically balance the top of the page and the bottom of the page. We return to the same broad look. If that makes sense. And so the way I would go about doing that is by having these vertical panels sit over top of the bottom panel. So it just keeps your eye moving down, moving down, moving down, moving down, moving across on top of here, right? And then the other way we can make it interesting is because these panels are the same width as this one, we can either make this sit inside or sit outside, or put a break between, a little border divider, like so, and have it move right across the page again and just fill out the bottom part of the page. So where we've got our center of the page here, and then we put 2 lines on the outside. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 lines here as well. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 panels vertically across. So that gives us lots of space in order to tell the story. Okay, so crowd. So there's the gathering of the crowd. The page suggestion is a gathering angry mob from Tyler. There's the layout started for the page. Okay. And so the next panel will be our guy starting to move forward. Down here will be him moving forward and the crowd following in behind. So if you can imagine, as he's sort of stalking towards the window, that we're, as whoever the mob is gathering against, are looking out through that first window in that first panel up at the top here. So now as they're all moving towards it, it should raise the stakes. It should raise the intensity of what's going on, what's going to happen to us. Even though nothing can happen to us, it's a story we're reading. Take it easy, Treyu. But these actions here, we can push it even farther and have, moving away from the window and running away through the environment maybe, and or we can go a completely different direction, which is kind of where my mind's going. It's the suggestions of gathering angry mob. They're all angry, I'll give them that, but they're not organized. So as we're looking at what's going on outside there through that window, I'd like to show the mob as being rather incompetent. And as they're trying to get together, you guys ready to go? And the mob says, did you bring the pitchforks? Why do I always have to bring the pitchforks? Well, I brought the torch to light on fire. Do you have anything to light it with? No. Somebody else should have a lighter. I love that kind of a turn on things. So that is the direction I'm taking this page. Okay. Yeah, this has been fun. I'm going to wrap it up here just because I've had a really, really busy morning. And in my busy morning, I'm a brittle diabetic, so I'm going to go and check on what's going on. In the meantime, thank you very much, everybody, for coming by. I hope there's some things that you've picked up in here. The pages are posted on Instagram and Facebook, but they're also posted on my Patreon with the original art. And if you're interested, check that out. I'll be back tomorrow to do another one. I might have a guest joining me tomorrow or Friday. We'll see, and I'll make an announcement in the the post for the stream itself. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming to hang out. I'd love to see what you guys are working on. If you want to share that, I'd love to. I fully encourage anybody to throw any ideas at me that they want to. 3-word prompts, I'll take those. The dragon page that I did was 7 prompts that came from Miriam and Chris K. So whatever it is, I'm all about just trying to tell stories. I'm trying to figure out different ways to tell stories and different ideas to try to express and explore. And I'm game. So thanks very much. This says bye, and then Riri says bye. Thanks everybody, very much, everybody, for coming out. I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. Bye for now.